open up. All praises be to Allah in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, who was to come and has come in the person of Master Prophet Muhammad, and in the name of his last and greatest apostle, our dear leading teacher and perfect guide. I say unto you all, in our nation's greetings of peace and of paradise, Assalamu alaikum. I don't know why I think that. Yes, I do. I'll be lying if I said I don't know why. I know why they don't come here. I know why we avoid this. I do know why. And I'm going to call a spade a spade. See, we are used to religious preaching. And I'm going to tap into the political climate in America. I may tap into a little bit what's taking place in the Middle East. With all of this propaganda, wars and rumors of wars, the messengers have already warned us and told us all of this was coming. It gets redundant to go back over it, over and over again, every time a war starts. They are there in the valley of Jehoshaphat. The devil is not coming out of the Middle East. So I don't get my gander up, nor do I get fired up and say, all praises be to Allah, the messenger was right. Of course the messenger is right. But we don't look at the rightness of the messenger, the correctness of the messenger, as far as the remedy to solve the problem. And what is that remedy? The remedy is separation. See, we look at Islam like it's a spectator sport. I'm no fan of Islam. I'm no fan of Allah. I'm not a fan. I'm not a groupie of Messenger Elijah Muhammad. I am a practitioner. That means I am a player in this war. What about you? I'm a soldier in this great war of Armageddon. What about you? See, too many of us accept this truth as fans. We reminisce about men in the past and women in the past and deal with the greatness of those brothers and sisters, and that's okay. But what about you today? The messenger built a nation within a nation. If all we want is preaching, then you could have stayed in Christianity. But we are used to preaching. And unfortunately, brothers and sisters, 99.9% of the messenger's followers and his people, which includes black people here in the wilderness of North America, we relegate or reduce the messenger as some preacher. He said that I am Elijah Muhammad, the preacher of freedom, justice, and equality. And look at the actual fact board. What is freedom, justice, and equality? For 43 and a half years, he referred to himself as the preacher of freedom, justice, and equality. So when we come to Islam, we come by way of someone preaching to us, standing up on the rostrum, talking. And that's a good thing. But it's not something that we should stay in all of our lives. And then we get to the point we start preaching to ourselves. We start coming up with edicts and things that we make up out of our own mind based on what we've heard and what we have experienced and what we think. And most of it is just guesswork or some form of witchcraft. Our Islam can be shown and proven by one way and one way only. Not by what we look like, not by the clothes that we wear, or the foods that we eat. That's not how you show and prove Islam. That's not how you show and prove that the black man is the God. Always has been and always will be. There is but one way to show and prove that Allah is the God, always has been, and always will be. Otherwise, we will continue to fall victim to the civilization of the devil. Now, on yesterday, January 4th, I believe, today is the 5th, I did a subject on the science of 6 months. The 6 month process. The path to correction. And I hope you brothers and sisters that's a member, that's part of our movement, I hope you went and listened to it. And if you didn't, shame on you, because you're wasting your time and you're wasting mine. If you didn't go listen to it, you're wasting time. You're wasting your time and you're wasting my time. I'm not doing these presentations just to show off. I'm doing it to help save all of our lives. The lives of your children, the lives of your grandchildren. I wake up and I study. I go to bed and I study. I think I'm studying while I'm sleeping. What about you? See, we've been in Islam so long and we've become so dissatisfied with all of these independent groups, sects, and temples, and these cult-like components that have made us tired and exhausted. And then you want to find fault with everything. But who you really finding fault with is Allah and the Messenger, because Allah gives us no excuses. He said the earth is spacious. There's no one keeping you a slave. You're keeping yourself a slave. There's no one hindering you and I from accepting our salvation. No one keeping us from building our own world. There's no one hindering us. But our problem stems from our inability to identify the process that we need to follow. So we end up guessing. And we always end up over there with the devil. And after following the devil for a little while, it's hard to get you to leave the devil. I mean, in a very real way. I don't mean in words. I don't mean just a bearing of witness. I mean an actual work product. What's taking place in America is not a joke. Messenger Muhammad have already warned black people that this was coming. America, what do you think this is? This is all about war. What are we surprised about? Because you got a madman in the White House? All of them were madmen. But that has nothing to do with us being hindered as far as getting out of the way. So, we get brothers and sisters, they find out about what we're doing and they get excited. Like, wow, y'all are really doing it. This is what we've been looking for. No, it's not what you've been looking for. Because you come here for a couple of weeks and you can't stay. You can't be consistent. You can't tolerate what it takes to get this movement off of the ground. Look, brothers and sisters, this is going to require all we have. And I've taught you in the past. I'm going to teach you again today. If all you have is 5%, give that. If you have 10%, give that. If you have 50%, give the 50%. If you have 70%, give the 70%. Give all you have. You can't give what you don't have. But we are a people that are used to shucking and jiving on responsibility and blaming everybody but ourselves. I said, no one is keeping you and I a slave. We're keeping ourselves a slave. So, let's look at something in the breakup of the old world and see what our problem lies. I was talking to Brother Anthony this morning, and we were talking about the phenomenon of mental health in our community. And if you can remember, when we opened up this building, pardon me, in February, the first month of February, or the first month that we opened up, our focus was on the black family. Then in the month of March, our focus was on mental health. And I was talking to Brother Anthony, and I said, all of us have mental health issues. If you're a black man and woman here in America, you have mental health challenges. I don't care who you are. After over 400 and some years of intense slavery, suffering, and death, being stripped, when you see a police, you get nervous. When you look at white people, something goes over you. This is not normal behavior for civilized people. It's not. So we are not normal. None of us are. So with the phenomenon of social media, we can go on social media and we can manifest our insanity. Well, let me tell you why we are going insane. We are going insane because we are mixing truth with falsehood. And that is a dangerous cocktail. We're trying to mix Islam with Christianity. We're trying to mix Islam with Christianity. And you cannot mix Islam with anything. Islam has to be the bomb. It's uncut funk. You want your Islam pure, uncut. You don't want no doobie in your funk. And you don't want any Christianity in your Islam. Islam is the bomb. Islam, George said, the funk will move and it would remove. Islam. So what is he talking about George Clinton for? No, I'm talking about the wisdom and the science that's there. Islam will move you and I. And it will also remove our impediments to freedom, justice, and equality. The operative word is movement. can't have movement if you're depressed, oppressed, and you feel unworthy to live in total righteousness. And this is a righteousness that you and I are going to have to build under the direct guidance of Master Prophet Muhammad. And how do we get underneath of that guidance? By obeying his apostle, the great Elijah Muhammad. The breakup, he called this the breakup of the old world. And in this article, the messenger speaks on this war. And in the article prior to this one, titled On Universal Corruption, he puts something in here from the Quran. He said, corruption has appeared in the land and the sea on account of that which men's hands have wrought, that he may make them taste a part of that which they have done, so that they may return. He said, Allah the All-Wise, the best knower, who has knowledge of the past, the present, and the future, revealed this above prophecy to Muhammad. May the peace and blessings of Allah be upon him nearly 1,400 years ago, as though it were taking place during that time. However, it was referring to these days, and we see the manifestation and fulfillment of the above verse. See, we have to apply this teaching according to the past, the present, and the future. We must have knowledge of what? The time. Without understanding the time, we will be the loser. So what are we doing with our time? If we look at that board up here, right behind me, it asks the question, which one will survive the war of Armageddon? What makes you and I think that we are not in a war? I mean, I'm not concerned about America going to war with Iran or any other country. I'm not concerned about that. I'm concerned about this war, the war of Armageddon. Pardon me. What are some of the components of war? Death, destruction. The Air Force, the Navy, the Marines, the Army, the Special Forces. Tell me, where are our troops? Scattered. That means that we are losing. And we're going to lose our children, and we will eventually lose our future. But the messenger gave us a reprieve when he said that almost all of the light in Mecca was out, except for a flicker. This flicker of light represents the small few believers who are holding on to the truth of Almighty God Allah, who came in the person of Master Prophet Muhammad and his messenger Elijah Muhammad. These are the believers. The Holy Quran, Surah 49, verse 15, gives us a clear description of who these believers are. Let's look at it. I think that the name of this chapter is titled The apartments. Am I right or wrong? And it reads, the believers are those who only believe in Allah and His messenger. Then they doubt not and struggle hard with their wealth and their lives in the way of Allah. Such are the truthful ones. What is the way of Allah? This is the question that you and I must ask today. And when we ask this question, we must be able to discover the answer. Just look at the board. This is a war. So we have to what? Struggle hard with our lives and our wealth in the way of Allah. And we can't have doubt, brothers and sisters. You can't doubt that we're going to win. You can't have doubt that Allah will come out and be victorious. You can't have doubt that the messenger didn't tell you, that the messenger told you the truth. You can't doubt the messenger of Allah. You can't doubt Master Farad Muhammad. You can't doubt none of this. For somewhere in the crevices of our minds, we come up with doubt. Because things don't happen when we want it to happen. So instead of sitting and waiting on the will of Allah, not in mystery God, but the will of Allah, we go out and do the devil's will. So we must understand the importance of patience. And that's where your fasting and your 5 principles of Islam, your charity, we have to learn to be patient with this. I must become more patient. But patience, like humility, is only qualified by an action. Patience doesn't mean that we go home and sit at home and wait for a mystery God. Patient people have a plan. So what are your plans for the next 6 months? I'm going to repeat this again. Patience can only be qualified by an action. Patience does not mean that you go home and sit and wait on a mystery God. Throughout Islam, throughout the Quran, duty is spelled out. So patience does not X out duty. That's not how that works. Patience is qualified by an action. But brothers and sisters, we have reduced the message of Allah to a preacher. And that's why what we are doing is very difficult to accomplish. Yeah, I get all this all the time, brother. I believe in what y'all doing. No, you don't. You don't believe in it. Because this is not what we are doing. This is what all of us are supposed to be doing. If you say you believe, you signed up for what? Separation. Am I right or wrong, sisters and brothers? That's what we signed up for. What do you think your Dear Savior letter was about? It said, Dear Savior Allah, I believe in the religion of Islam. It's taught by thy servant Elijah Muhammad. Right? What? Elijah Muhammad taught separation. He says separation or death. Look at the board. Look at the board. Separation or death. So we spend a lot of time and energy preaching about things that's not going to bring about separation. This is a process that you've been following for months, And for years, getting up, preaching before people, going in and listening to people preach to you about the religion of Islam. So you have a wall, I want to say, or impediment when you come here and try to listen to us. And brothers and sisters that are part of this movement, I'm not talking about anyone in particular, but I'm talking about the people that come among us looking for something. They're looking for some form of guidance, so they think. But they're not really looking for guidance. They're looking for fault. But they are too weak and hypocritical to confront me to my face. They'd rather go behind my back and talk. So we have to manage the dissatisfaction of us. And we have to be able to identify people almost immediately. This is why you walk your post in a perfect manner, keeping always on the alert. What do you think that means? You can't walk your post in a perfect manner, keeping always on the alert, if you're functioning like a civilian. We can't let this doubt creep into our minds. We just can't do it. The message says, there is no doubt in anyone's mind today that the condition of the nations is such that needs a ruler who is not involved in the present world of corruption to bring about peace and goodwill among the people of the earth. Master Fuad Muhammad is this ruler. So why are we getting involved in this politics and all of this guessing? I mean, the furthest east I've been, you've been at Virginia Beach. I mean, I'm not going to worry about what's, I don't know what's taking place over there. I just know what the message is taught, that this is universal corruption. So I can't take Iran's side or Iraq's side. I certainly can't take American side. So I'm going to be with the new ruler. I'm not going to get my hand tied up in the corruption of the entire world. Because it gets us caught up and strung up because of the unlike attracting power. We just got to know this. We got to figure this out. But brothers and sisters, this is a form of stalling. What I mean by stalling, if you ever played basketball and you watch a game where a team is just passing the ball from one another to one another until they get an opportunity or until they think that they can score. That's called stalling the ball. And that's what we are doing. We are stalling. So all we like to do is pass information around, kicking the bobo, sciencing up, stalling. I got a little knowledge. I'm going to teach a little bit, and I'm going to pass it on to you. You got some knowledge, you're going to pass it on. No, let's shoot. Let's shoot the John Brown ball and put it in the basket. Because I'm passing on information. But when the ball is in my hand, I'm going to shoot it. That means that I'm going to shoot my shot. I'm shooting towards separation. I'm not going to avoid separation because I'm afraid of the enemy. I'm not afraid of the white man's power. I respect his power. I respect his authority, but I'm not afraid of it Because the message said we need a new ruler. Yaqub is the old ruler. His time is up. Why are we doubtful? Why are we mournful? Message, there cannot be peace for the lovers who seek after peace until the peace breakers have been removed from authority and their activities of mischief making, causing bloodshed, grief, sorrow, and trouble among peace-loving nations. I'm going to read this again. Apply this intellectually, internally. Apply it to yourself. There cannot be peace for the lovers who seek after peace until the peace breakers have been removed from authority. You're giving peace breakers the authority over you when you have doubt. And this is why you and I can't have peace. I mean, what did we cover last week from the making of devil? He said, according to history, what? Let's look at it. Let's look at it again. I think that we are missing something here. The white man no longer has authority. Yaqub is not in authority. We are giving him authority because we refuse to get this knowledge of self. And we're complaining and crying and marching and begging. I'm going to read this again. He said, there cannot be peace for the lovers who seek after peace until the peace breakers have been removed from authority and their activities of mischief making, causing bloodshed, grief, sorrow, and trouble among peace-loving nations. This is all about separation. What weapon do we have to remove the troublemakers and the peace breakers from among us? What weapon do we have? What weapon do we have, sister? We have Allah. And what did Allah give us? We have supreme wisdom, right? Which is mathematical theology. And said, after learning mathematics, which is Islam, and Islam is mathematics, it stands true. So if we haven't learned mathematics, which is the highest of all sciences, then we can't prove that it's true. It's not that it's not true, but you won't be able to prove it true, and I wouldn't be able to prove it true if I have not learned it. So, the Master says, you have learned. Was he talking to someone in particular? From the reading of history, that a nation's permanent success depends on its obedience to Allah. Do we have permanent success? What? Because we're not obedient. We're doubtful. We don't strive hard. We don't struggle hard with our wealth in our lives, in the way of Allah, in the way of separation. So we come across as untruthful. And we just leverage the topic of separation to show and prove. Make sense? Praise be to Allah. So we have to remove the peace breakers We have to remove from us their authority and get away from their activities of mischief making. Because this mischief making causes bloodshed, grief. Well, that's your mental health. Sorrow, that is your mental health. Let's go to the next article. The message says, and I quote, he said, all the mighty men of science and modern warfare have been called in an effort to devise instruments and weapons against God and the armies of heaven. The nations of the earth are angry. He said that there is not a civilized government of people at this writing that is not in trouble and trying to find a solution to the cause. He said all the nations of the earth are so corrupt with other than good that they cannot come to any agreement on peace with each other, then carry it into practice. This is the medicine. Just go into the medicine cabinet and open up the book. Say, Trump broke his agreement. Well, the man don't told you over 50 years ago that they can't keep this agreement. He said the disagreement and corruption today is seen not only in the Christian world of Europe and America, but also in the very heart of the Holy Land in Africa and Asia. So why are we shocked? See, we spend a lot of time mulling over things that we can't control. And it paralyzes us. It makes us fearful. And this fear causes doubt, disbelief. And this disbelief and this doubt turns into mental health issues. Because this fear and this doubt keeps you and I from coming together to build our own world. We need a fearless, almost crazy people to turn this around. And I know one. I know one fearless, crazy person. Maybe two. I know I'm one of them. Because that's what it's going to take. We're going to have to just come to a point, say, you know what? We're going to have to sacrifice. We're going to have to eat Navy beans every day. Stop spending our money on things that are unnecessary. Foolishness, fun, sport and play, recreation, we really do not have the time and energy for that. So we have to budget our money. Because it's going to take, we don't have large funds of money. We don't have a lot of money. And we are chasing money. But we're chasing money to pay for things that we really don't need. We just think we need it. What we need is land. What we need is a compound to go and start building our own civilization. And that's going to take a supreme sacrifice. And if you doubt that, then you're not truthful. Domestic corruption started in Europe, and it has now spread over 9/10 of the population of the planet Earth. It has caused the dissatisfaction of nearly 100% of the civilized nations. He said dissatisfaction has reached such a percentage that it is bound to bring about universal war, since the corruption is universal. The continuing disagreement between the heads of the nations is referred to as confusion and conflict in the Bible and the Holy Quran. In this world of universal corruption and crisis and the ever-growing threat of universal war, we, the so-called American Negroes, the lost found members of the tribe of Shabazz, should unite and take our stand on the side of Allah God, His religion of peace, Islam, and our own nation, the black people. Brothers and sisters, we're on our own. So, what's the problem? You have grown adults, grown men and grown women working in mental health capacities in the white man's civilization, in this corrupt civilization, trying to solve this problem, a problem that cannot be solved. The only way this problem can be solved is in Islam. The more we put off separation, the harder it's going to be to solve this problem. Because you'll get to the point that you say, you know what? I'm forced to look at this separation. But you may be so bad that I'm just, me being the sentinel on the door, I'm going to turn you down. So who the hell you think you are? I'm God. I am Allah. I'm not the supreme being. I'm not Master Prophet Muhammad. But I have the wisdom of Allah through His messenger at my disposal. You said that Islam is mathematics. And after learning mathematics, which is Islam, it stands true. So if the message says that you're going to be forced to fly to Allah, only to be turned down, then who in the hell is going to turn you down? Who's going to turn you down? See, we don't believe Allah is a man. But we have to rule with justice and righteousness. I can't be an unjust person and turn somebody down. I can't do that. We can't do that. Don't tell me we can't turn people down. What are you talking about? If you haven't learned the processes necessary to be able to turn people down, then you wouldn't understand what I'm talking about. This is some elevated Islam. You're so used to preaching, talking about you going to raise the dead. No, at some point in time, you have to let the dead do what? Bury the dead. The message, all the mighty men of science and modern warfare have been called in an effort to devise instruments and weapons against God and the armies of heaven. The nations of the earth are angry. The disbelievers, he said. So, if he said the disbelievers, let's look at the believers. He said the disbelievers and hypocrites of my people also are angry over the change of the old world. Look at the board. This is the old world. Slavery, suffering, and death. Christianity. Over the changing of the old world to a new world of justice and righteousness, causing much spiritual darkness and misunderstanding to fall upon them. This is our mental health. And as I was talking to Brother Lieutenant this morning, this is how we overcome this mental condition of oppression. We pray, say, "Oh Allah, I seek thy refuge from anxiety and grief, from lack of strength and laziness, from cowardice and ungodliness, from being overpowered by debt and the oppression of men. Go and read the article. He's telling you and I in the article, this is a prayer that we should recite at least 7 times a day. He said we are brave enough to preserve the white race's independence, but not brave enough to fight for our own. He says, shake these shackles off. Shake them. You can't shake shackles off if you're laying in the bed, you fat. Mentally fat, because you got a job. You got a little money in the bank. See? But you're not a believer. He said the disbelievers and the hypocrites. You don't want to turn into a hypocrite. Because you eventually will be called to account unto that which you believe. The believers are those only who believe in Allah and His messenger. Then they doubt not, and struggle hard with their wealth and their lives in the way of Allah. Such are the truthful ones. Actually, again, what is the way of Allah? It's separation. We had a brother here that we had to run from among us. He started coming here, causing trouble. Brought another old nappy-head broad here. What's the nappy-head broad name? What was her name? She was an old nappy-head girl sitting in front. She was a nappy-head girl. She was. I ain't just talking about the physical naps. I'm talking about the mental naps. Why? Because she was used to somebody preaching and she thought she could be guided by reading some books. Because they want to take bits and pieces of the message's teachings to elevate themselves. So he come here, start telling lies, causing confusion, trying to get us to fight and kill one another. By accusing me of being against the message teachers, right in front of all of you. I said, brother, we got to get him from among us. Why? Because we already have this in history. And he done been with some of everybody, looking for guidance. This is really not that difficult. But what makes it difficult is our inability to give away falsehood. See, as I was telling the brother, the new brother, I said, brother, you're not going to have no problem learning. Well, your problem going to be is unlearning. I'm going to repeat this again. We don't have problems learning. We have problems unlearning. And when you're not able to throw back that what you thought you knew, it's a form of arrogance. And that's where you have to start, with arrogance and proudness. So as we go in our day-to-day, the angels are ascending and they're descending. This also deals with our brain power, our knowledge base. We've got to take some stuff and throw it away. If you have a 16-ounce glass that's filled to capacity, can you put anything else in there? Can you? You can't. So we don't sit still long enough. And I think the long enough should be about 6 months. We're not able to sit still for 6 months to rid ourselves of the devil's thinking. Because our habits of the devil comes from the mindset that's in our brain that we got from the devil. And what is this mindset? What did the message says? What did he say? Let's look at it. He said, since y'all being brought in chains to the shores of America, our brain power, labor, skills, talent, and wealth have been taken, given, and spent toward building and adding to the civilization of another people. Is that not what he said? Right? So I mean, our brain is filled to capacity for serving another people.
Pardon me, brothers and sisters.
So, you know, that's the sister that came here. Right, right. And in a way, mental health. Let's look at what else he said pertaining to this subject. He said we must begin at the cradle and teach our babies that they must do something for self. Are you doing that? You got to ask yourself that question. I can say yes. I mean, I started a job program called Do for Self. Am I right? How old were these babies when they started working? Someone with 11 and 12 and 13 years old. (11, 12, 13, 14), because they could actually sell newspapers by the time they're 11 according to the state law. It wasn't about the newspaper. It was about doing something for self. The selling of the newspaper subscriptions was just a vehicle to get them early. See, the white man said you can get a work permit at 14. But who you got to go to get this work permit? You got to go to the state, don't you? Right? So you think you're going to get a permit from him and he's going to teach and train you to do something for self? Or you think he's going to continue to keep embedding the seed of dependency upon him? Huh? So when Allah bless us with an antidote, a remedy to solve this problem of dependency, we reject it. So our babies, due to our failure to teach and train them from the cradle, see what he said. I have to make this very real for us. He said we must begin at the cradle and teach our babies that they must do something for self. They must not be like we, their fathers, who look to the slave makers and slave masters' children for all. How many of you, brothers and sisters, that are here, that are participating in the conference, and that will be listening to this broadcast in the future, how many of you are teaching your children from the cradle that they must do something for self? I don't mean going to business just to operate a business to do for the white man. That's not doing for self. Going down to the government to get a corporation and get a tax ID number, I mean, you have to have that. That's not the totality of doing for self. Because you're going in business to earn more money to spend with your slave master. Well, how much of that money are you putting into building your own civilization? Are you teaching and training your children this? I did when I had young children. I did. Praise be to Allah. But just because you teach and train them, that don't mean they're gonna stick to it. But you got to run this race a long time, because it's hard to get something off of the ground. Because our people believe that the white man's ice is colder. I remember building websites years ago, before the technology passed me by, and I was told by a family member, well, why don't you go and get you a job building websites? I said, what I'm going to get a job building websites for? And get somebody else to pay me what I can do for myself. And they said, well, they got a big business, they got this, that, and the third. So they were trying to plant the seeds of dependency upon me, wasn't it? They didn't really mean no harm. But let's look at why that happens. Let's look at the Messiah's teachings. He said, they must not be like we, their fathers, who look to the slave makers and slave masters' children for all. Go get you a job. Look to the slave masters and the slave makers' children for all, is what I was told. The Messiah said, we must teach our children now with an enthusiasm. What was the enthusiasm? No, man, go do something for yourself. It's a meme on social media. It said that, it says, I guess this turtle, this cartoon character drinking tea. And it says, I got a job. I got a new job, and it says 1,500 likes. And then the other one said, I opened up a new business, it got 3 likes. That's the way we are. Oh, I got a new job. So ain't God good? I'll open up my own business. You get no response. But you got to open up your own business anyway, brothers and sisters. See, we must teach our children now with an enthusiasm, exceeding that which our slave masters used in having our forefathers embed the seed of dependency within us. I can honestly say, praise be to Allah, that I have attempted to do that for the last 30 years. And I've had one Muslim brother come to work with me. One. And the first opportunity that he had, he went and found him a job working for the devil. Good brother too, smart, intelligent. Was good at what we were doing. Had his own children working for him too. Had built up a nice little thing for himself in the community where he lived. He always supported, what I proposed. But because his situation was much different than mine, he was married, about 5, 6 children. And sometimes you're at home and, your spouse is telling you you can't do that. You got to go get you a job. They're not doing it out of anything but fear and dependency upon the white man. So as men, sometimes we cave into that. I did say we need a bunch of crazy, fearless people to overcome this. And sometimes that crazy and fearlessness brings about a divorce. It brings about a separation. Hatred and enmity come between man and woman. Because if she's not encouraging you to take part in this freedom and in this revelation, then naturally she's going to encourage you to become a slave to the white man. Then you finally go get you a job, and everything is fine. Everything is fine with her. So we want to encourage self-sufficiency here. He said we must stop the process of giving our brain power, labor, and wealth to our slave master's children. We must eliminate the master-slave relationship. Brothers and sisters, it's going to bring this to a close. The 6-month process, the path to correction. We must stop the process of giving our brain power, labor, talent, skill, and wealth to the slave masters and their children. We must reverse this process. So why did Musa have a hard time to civilize the devil 2000 BC? That's because he was a savage, right? And what is a savage? One who has lost the knowledge of himself and is living a beast life. When the message said all civilized people get a benefit of their knowledge, education, skill, and wealth to the elevation of their own. He said those who do not, they refer to them as traitors, toms, tools, spies, defectors. Where's the evidence that we're given the benefit of our talent, our brain power, our skills, our talent, and our wealth to the building of our own nation? Where is it? See, you and I must be able to identify this weakness from among us. Because if not, you're going to want to allow this weakness to come among us, and this weakness is going to cause us trouble. The weakness show up in people. So you must identify the people that you deal with in your day-to-day comings and goings. They don't believe in separation. Just smile, say, "Assalamu alaikum, brother. Assalamu alaikum, sister." And they want to take all your time and have what you call a pissing contest based on what they know and against what they think you know. And you can find yourself doing it. But when you start talking about separation, there's nothing to talk about. Nothing. So we all must learn how to leverage the subject of separation to run weak people from among us. You have no other way of identifying it. And they're going to come eventually, and they're going to have all kinds of monkey behavior attached to them. So you better learn how to walk your post in a perfect manner, keeping always on the alert. And take charge. Brothers and sisters, I'm going to bring this to a close. But before I do, I'm going to get back to this seek refuge in Allah. We must seek refuge in Allah. We must seek refuge in Allah. Did y'all hear me? See, the message of the touch of Islam makes the lost found have a sense of dignity. And for the first time, he feels that he should do something for self. You have to just look at this entire sentence. Extrapolate it. Take it out of the entire article and just focus on this one sentence. For 6 months. You can take one sentence and focus on it for 6 months to break a habit, to break the curse of dependency on the white man. Because in this one sentence, you're going to ask yourself the question, have I been really touched by Islam? Because if you and I've been touched by Islam, you have a sense of dignity, and you're going to feel, you're going to have the desire that you should do something for self. That's just the beginning stages of it. And then he desires to rid himself of the things that hinder him. How long does it take for us to divest ourselves of the devil's habits? How much time are we given? 6 months. So you have to identify those things. And I must identify those things. And we must work on them every single day for 6 months. Every day. He therefore now prays the following prayer. O Allah, I seek thy refuge from anxiety and grief. And I seek thy refuge from the lack of strength and laziness. And I seek thy refuge from cowardice and ungodliness. And I seek thy refuge from being overpowered by debt and the oppression of men. O Allah, suffice thou me with what is lawful, to keep me away from what is prohibited. And with thy grace, make me free from want of what is besides thee. See, we want something over here in the white man's world. And it brings about anxiety and grief. That's your mental health. Oppression. Because you're competing with one another for slavery, suffering, and death. That's why our children are shooting each other in the street. They're not shooting each other in the street over knowledge, over divine knowledge. No, they shoot over tennis shoes, girlfriends, boyfriends. They are arguing and fussing over basic, simple nigger mess. But when you begin to get them here to Do for Self Academy and teach them how to actually love their own black brothers and sisters by putting this knowledge of self-sufficiency in their head, this mental health condition will be turned around. Allah and the Messenger gave us the keys. It's right here with us. But we have to sustain it. He said, we, the lost ones, should repeat the above prayer 7 times a day, for it sums up our greatest hindrance to freedom and self-independence. Do we have freedom and self-independence? So are we 6 months? Say this prayer every day for seven times a day. 6 months. All of us. I'm talking about the science of the 6-month process. The path to correction. It's basic things. We're looking for all of this long, drawn-out recitation of lessons. No, let's do the basics. Repeat this prayer every day. 7 times a day for 6 months. To make devil, what must you do first? To make devil, one must begin. We have to have a beginning. Let today be a beginning. That's the lesson. We must have a beginning. Let today, brothers and sisters, be a beginning to recite this prayer every day, 7 times a day, for 6 months. Go into your telephone. Set your alarm to remind you that you said this prayer. I'm giving you basic tools and weaponry to overcome this affliction. This is what I've done. I set my phone. I set my alarm on my phone. Goes off at 5, goes off at 12, goes off about 3:30. About to go off in a little bit, I guess. Goes off around 7, goes off about 10. And I try to say this prayer all in between. For 6 months. This is the process of correction, the path to correction, the 6-month process. He said, fear, cowardice, and laziness are our greatest enemies. We are brave enough to fight to preserve the white race's independence, but not brave for self and kind. Shake such shackles off and face the consequences like men, and we all will be free. So when I tell you, where the fearless crazy people? Well, I mean, Jasir, that's what it means. Fearless, courageous. I got some craziness in me too. Jihad. You know, I'm not trying to make this about me, but this is something that I have accepted. So I try to stay away from things, people, places, and ideas that's going to be a hindrance cause to self-independence. And they show up in the way of people that you love, your children, your grandchildren, your loved ones, the people that you work with, your wives and your husbands, your parents. We love and we respect our parents, but when they contend with us about Allah, we are duty bound not to obey them. What do you think that means? It can seem like some type of dichotomy or paradox, but it's not. If your parents or your children are telling you, your parents in this case, if your parents are telling you to be a slave, they are contending with you over Allah. Make sense? So you are not supposed to obey them. But yet you're supposed to love and respect and honor your parents. You got me? Okay. And this is what we have to teach our children and our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren. But you and I must set the example. And we all to be free. So we need a group of crazy, fearless people that are willing to face the consequences. In other words, it's consequences we're going to be faced with in trying to build our own independence. And most of these consequences is going to come from the people that we are attached to. We know the white man, he's gonna be who he is. He's the devil. But what about the people that show up with the white man's mind? They're going to wish that you fail. You got to be able to identify them. Praise be to Allah. I'm going to bring this to a close. Separation is the answer. That's the answer. So may Allah bless each and every one of us. And I thank Master Fard Muhammad. I thank Master Fard Muhammad, the supreme being, Allah in person, the one that was to come and the one who has come. In the raising up of a messenger, the little Lamb of God, the great Elijah Muhammad, to teach us the truth. Brothers and sisters, we got a wonderful opportunity. Next week I'm going to teach on, can we preserve the black nation? He said, because what? We fight hard to preserve the white race's independence. Just take that one sentence and work on it for 6 months. So may Allah bless us. Assalamu alaikum. Are there any questions and no comments? Go ahead, sister.